At 2:14 in the morning, deep beneath the frozen mountains of Switzerland, humanity may have crossed a line it can never uncross. Inside the underground tunnels of CERN, where the most advanced scientific machine on Earth was carrying out a routine calibration, something impossible suddenly appeared on the monitors. It did not originate from Earth, nor did it come from the particle beam inside the collider. According to every law of physics ever written, it should not have existed at all. What scientists witnessed that night would force governments into absolute silence, push modern science to the very edge of collapse, and ignite a terrifying question across the planet. What if the universe is not built from matter, but from intention? High above the jagged peaks of the Swiss Alps, freezing winds screamed across the mountains, while nearly 100 meters underground, the tunnels of CERN vibrated with controlled energy. Massive superconducting magnets guided streams of protons through the circular accelerator at nearly the speed of light. In the Atlas control room, surrounded by glowing monitors and the constant hum of cooling systems, Dr. Julian Vance monitored the calibration sequence in complete silence. Everything appeared entirely normal, every system was stable, and every detector was aligned. Then the anomaly arrived without warning. At first, the computers flagged the reading as corrupted data. A sudden burst of high-energy neutrinos flooded the sensors. But the source was not the particle collider itself. The particles were originating from somewhere far beyond Earth's atmosphere, coming directly from the coordinates of a mysterious object now known as 3IATLAS, hovering near the Moon. Within seconds, the entire control room shifted from routine observation to controlled panic. The readings made no rational sense. The particles were behaving in ways no neutrino should ever behave, with signatures suggesting motion that appeared to reverse causality itself, as if traveling backward through time before even arriving. Julian stared at the screen, completely unable to look away. He checked the numbers once, then twice, and then a third time. Every single result was identical, confirming the data was undeniably real. However, the second wave of information was even worse. Across the world in Chile, the Vera Rubin Observatory began detecting massive spatial distortions surrounding the exact same object. Space itself appeared to bend and ripple around 3IATLAS, like water flowing around a submerged engine. The observatory's powerful telescopes captured strange circular formations resembling Einstein rings. Yet, unlike anything astronomers had previously observed, these distortions were not random. They formed geometric patterns far too precise to occur naturally in deep space. The observatory's imaging systems began projecting fragments of impossible visuals, revealing glimpses of structures and star systems that did not appear to belong to our timeline at all. For the first time in recorded history, scientists began privately discussing a possibility that had always belonged strictly to science fiction. Someone or something was manipulating space-time intentionally. Inside CERN, the atmosphere turned cold as the neutrino bursts continued increasing in frequency. Every pulse carried encoded energy patterns that behaved less like cosmic radiation and more like direct communication. Julian realized the horrifying implication almost immediately. This was not random cosmic noise. It was structured, directed, and engineered. Humanity was receiving an intentional message from deep space. For centuries, physics taught us that the universe was built from particles and fundamental forces: matter, gravity, energy, and time. But what if those were only surface effects? What if reality itself operated more like music than machinery? Through the framework of string theory, some physicists had already suggested that everything in existence was created through microscopic strings vibrating across hidden dimensions. Now, for the first time, there appeared to be direct physical evidence of something capable of controlling those fundamental vibrations. 3IATLAS was not moving through space the way an ordinary asteroid or comet would. It was actively interacting with the fabric of reality itself. As data poured into laboratories around the world, scientists discovered another terrifying detail. The object seemed fully capable of disappearing and reappearing instantaneously across vast cosmic distances without crossing the physical space between them. One moment, it occupied a specific set of scattered modern physics. Gravity suddenly looked less like an immutable force and more like a programmable geometry. Space no longer seemed fixed, and time no longer seemed stable. If 3IATLAS truly possessed the ability to manipulate higher dimensions, then humanity was witnessing technology millions, or perhaps billions, of years beyond our own understanding. Then came the satellite incident. 40 dead satellites orbiting Earth suddenly stopped drifting aimlessly through space. Every single one of them shifted position at the exact same moment, forming a massive geometric cage around the mysterious object. No propulsion systems activated, and no human commands were transmitted. Yet, the satellites moved with mathematical precision, as though an invisible intelligence had reached into orbit and rearranged them like pieces on a chessboard. Around the world, space agencies refused to comment publicly. NASA went completely silent, the European Space Agency restricted internal communications, and military observatories redirected their deep space arrays toward the anomaly. Behind closed doors, world governments quietly prepared emergency response protocols because the terrifying truth was becoming impossible to ignore. 3IATLAS was not a natural cosmic object, and if it truly came from an advanced civilization, humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The deeper scientists looked into the signals, the more disturbing the truth became. The pulses emitted by the object carried signatures matching theoretical models of a Type 3 civilization, a hyper-advanced intelligence capable of harnessing the energy of an entire galaxy. Every wave released from the anomaly contained traces of Hawking-like radiation with encoded patterns hidden inside the fabric of space-time itself. It was as if the universe had suddenly opened a door, and something on the other side was finally looking back at us. If you think this is where the story becomes impossible, wait until you see what happened when scientists discovered that time itself had begun slowing down around the object. The next phase of the 3IATLAS anomaly would reveal something even more terrifying than alien intelligence. It would reveal that reality may not be as stable as we believed, and humanity may already be trapped inside a system far larger than we can possibly comprehend. The moment scientists realized time itself was bending around 3IATLAS, the entire investigation changed forever. This was no longer just about an unidentified object near the moon, nor was it about strange signals or unexplained energy bursts. What the world was now witnessing was something far more dangerous. Reality itself was beginning to distort, and deep inside the control centers of CERN, NASA, and the Vera Rubin Observatory, researchers were quietly confronting a possibility that should have been physically impossible. The fundamental laws of physics were not merely breaking, they were actively being overridden. As the geometric formation around 3IATLAS stabilized, new telemetry began flooding into observatories across the planet. At first, the data looked like a simple redshift anomaly. Light reflecting off the 40 trapped satellites appeared stretched and distorted, almost as if the satellites were moving away from Earth at extreme speed. However, they were not moving at all. In fact, their positions remained perfectly locked in precise formation around the object. The distortion came from something else entirely, as the space inside the formation was expanding at a completely different rate than the space outside it. Scientists at the European Space Agency compared the readings against Einstein's equations of general relativity, hoping for a rational explanation. What they found instead sent shockwaves through the global scientific community. Time inside the geometric cage had slowed down dramatically. According to the calculations, 1 hour within the field surrounding 3IATLAS equaled nearly 7 years outside of it. 7 whole years. The implications were catastrophic, meaning the object was generating a gravitational time dilation effect more powerful than anything humanity had ever observed outside the edge of a black hole. Unlike a black hole, there was no gravitational singularity, no structural collapse, and no destructive gravitational tearing. Somehow, 3IATLAS was creating a stable temporal distortion field without destroying its immediate surrounding environment. Inside CERN, Dr. Julian Vance watched the computer models update in real time. Every simulation pointed toward the same terrifying conclusion. The object was manipulating space-time deliberately, twisting it into controlled geometries that modern science had only ever explored mathematically. It was behaving less like an interstellar spacecraft and more like a massive machine built directly into the structure of the universe itself. The deeper they analyzed the anomaly, the stranger the incoming readings became. The localized field around 3IATLAS closely resembled the rotational equations of a Kerr black hole, a spinning gravitational system capable of dragging space-time around itself. Yet there was no point of total collapse and no event horizon in the traditional sense. Instead, the object seemed to generate a contained whirlpool in reality, bending time and gravity together into a perfectly balanced structure. This was clearly not accidental physics. It was engineered on a cosmic scale, and according to theoretical models, maintaining such a structure would require negative energy densities far beyond anything human civilization could ever hope to produce. Entire physics textbooks suddenly became obsolete overnight, as technologies humanity once considered purely theoretical now existed directly in front of Earth. Then researchers uncovered the most chilling detail of all. The trapped satellites were not simply frozen in time, they were actively being analyzed. Every transmission those satellites had ever carried, every communication relay, military signal, weather scan, navigation record, and archive broadcast was being exposed to the anomalies field. Scientists began theorizing that the slowed passage of time inside the cage allowed 3IATLAS to process enormous amounts of information with terrifying efficiency. What would take humanity centuries to study could be analyzed by the object in mere moments of its own internal time frame. To whatever intelligence controlled 3IATLAS, human civilization may have appeared as a compressed stream of data unfolding almost instantly, a complete audit of Earth. The idea spread quietly through classified defense discussions. Maybe the object was not invading planet Earth. Maybe it was evaluating us. Some physicists proposed an even more unsettling possibility through the lens of the holographic principle. According to this theory, all information contained within a three-dimensional space can be encoded onto a two-dimensional boundary. If true, the geometric cage surrounding 3IATLAS may have functioned as a massive holographic storage system, recording the informational essence of Earth itself. Not just our technology, but our entire biosphere, humanity's genetic patterns, communications, culture, history, and digital footprint could all be compressed into the curvature of space-time surrounding the anomaly. It was a complete backup of civilization written directly into the geometry of the universe, and the evidence kept growing every hour. Gamma-ray observatories began detecting rhythmic pulses emerging from the object at highly specific frequencies. The pulses matched mathematical resonance patterns predicted by string theory, vibrations so precise they resembled structured harmonics rather than random cosmic radiation. Researchers started privately referring to it as the music of the spheres, an ancient philosophical idea suddenly appearing inside modern scientific data. For centuries, humanity imagined the cosmos as vast, silent emptiness. But now, the universe seemed intensely alive with hidden structures, layered dimensions, and encoded frequencies operating just beneath the surface of reality. At the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica, detectors registered another disturbing development as the incoming particles began accelerating rapidly. Every wave arrived faster than the last, carrying increasingly complex information signatures. Whatever process 3IATLAS had initiated was evolving exponentially. Then the time ratios changed once again. 1 hour inside the anomaly no longer equaled 7 years, as the numbers began climbing fast and the distortion field intensified. Scientists calculated that if this growth continued, the object would soon separate itself from Earth's time frame almost completely. To observers outside the field, 3IATLAS would appear slow and distant. But from the perspective of the intelligence inside, humanity would become little more than flickering moments passing at impossible speed, an entire civilization reduced to brief flashes in time. For the first time, open fear spread through the scientific teams because the final computer models suggested something no one wanted to admit aloud. The object was preparing for departure, and to leave our reality, it needed massive amounts of energy. It was not using fuel in the traditional sense, but something far more terrifying. 3IATLAS appeared to be drawing power directly from the quantum vacuum itself, harvesting zero-point energy from space-time to open what theorists described as a gateway into higher dimensional hyperspace, a doorway beyond the known universe. Humanity was no longer merely studying a mysterious object. We were watching a galactic machine refuel. According to the accelerating signals arriving at CERN, the final phase was about to begin. Hidden inside the latest neutrino pulses was something researchers could barely comprehend, a transmission encoded into the fundamental spin states of matter itself. This message was not aimed at world governments or telescopes, but at reality itself. The final transmission did not arrive as sound, human language, or written symbols. It arrived as pure geometry. Hidden inside the neutrino bursts flooding Earth's detectors was a mathematical structure so complex that supercomputers at CERN struggled to process even small fragments of it. At first, scientists believed that the patterns were random interference created by the anomaly's growing gravitational field. But the deeper they examined the incoming data, the more impossible the truth became to ignore. The transmission was organized with deliberate precision, layered with repeating constants and harmonic sequences that no natural phenomenon could have ever produced. Something was actively speaking to humanity, and it was using the fabric of reality itself as the communication medium. By the time the third wave of signals reached Earth, observatories across the world were fully synchronized in a global emergency analysis effort. CERN, the Vera Rubin Observatory, IceCube, NASA, the European space agencies, and private deep space arrays all focused their systems on 3IATLAS. Governments publicly claimed the situation was completely under control, but behind closed doors, global intelligence agencies were preparing for a scenario unlike anything in human history. The transmission was not merely informational, it was fully instructional. As physicists decoded the layered patterns hidden inside the neutrino pulses, they discovered embedded geometric frameworks matching advanced higher dimensional models predicted by string theory. The signals described folded spatial structures, impossible rotational symmetries, and gravitational architectures that could theoretically manipulate time itself. But one specific sequence appeared again and again throughout the transmission: a map. It was not a map through physical space, but a navigational route through dimensions. Dr. Julian Vance sat motionless inside the Atlas control room as the visual models unfolded across his monitors. Every single sequence led toward the exact same conclusion. 3IATLAS was not simply communicating with us. It was demonstrating how the dimensional gateway around it functioned. The object wanted humanity to understand precisely what it was doing. Outside the observatories, panic slowly spread across social media as amateur astronomers noticed unusual changes in the night sky. The object surrounding the moon no longer looked stable. Through consumer telescopes, observers reported shimmering distortions around the geometric satellite cage. Light appeared stretched and folded around the anomaly as though space itself had turned to liquid. Then the disappearances began. One by one, several satellites trapped within the formation vanished entirely from radar tracking systems. There were no explosions and no debris. They simply ceased to exist within normal space-time. Yet moments later, faint gamma-ray flashes suggested the objects had not been destroyed at all. They had been displaced somewhere else, somewhere entirely outside our dimensional frame. The implications terrified even the most skeptical researchers on Earth. If 3IATLAS could remove physical matter from our universe without releasing destructive energy, then the object possessed complete control over localized dimensional transitions. Human physics had barely theorized such capabilities, yet this intelligence was performing them effortlessly. The transmission continued growing stronger by the minute. At the IceCube Observatory, detectors beneath the Antarctic ice recorded neutrino cascades arriving in perfectly synchronized intervals. Unlike earlier bursts, these particles carried stable quantum spin alignments that appeared intentionally encoded. Scientists compared the structures against every known communication model on Earth, but none matched. However, one physicist noticed something extraordinary. When converted into harmonic frequencies, the patterns formed precise musical ratios. The ancient concept of the music of the spheres suddenly returned to scientific discussion with uncomfortable seriousness. For thousands of years, ancient philosophers believed the universe operated according to hidden harmonics governing reality itself. Modern physics had long dismissed the idea as a poetic metaphor, but now the incoming signals suggested otherwise. Reality may truly function through vibrational structures woven across hidden dimensions, and 3IATLAS was playing them deliberately.